Finance Leader Table Talk series, episode number 8, powered by the Oracle NetSuite and the Economic Times CFO. My name is Pulkit Goyal, and I'm the CFO at Honeywell Automation India. I'll be serving as your moderator today. A little over a year ago, no one was talking about generative AI. Now it's the dominant topic of top-level organizations and forums like WEF, OECD, and many other similar forums in India as well as across the globe. A lot has changed in that year. Of course, driven by the collective enthusiasm for tools that millions of us are now using in our daily lives, as evidenced by some of the statistics that I'm going to highlight in a few minutes. Such new products and services built around large language models, as well as image, sound, and video generation are appearing every day. The most mind-blowing thing, though, is that the investment and hype continuing to flow into the sector. The only way I can see these numbers going over the next year is up. Let's take a look at some of the fun facts around generative AI. And I'm going to share my slide with you. By the recent survey done by Gartner, 62% of the CFOs and almost 58% of the CEOs believe that artificial intelligence will have the most significant impact on their industries in the next 3 years. However, the interesting thing is that 23% of the CFO job ads also require AI skills. Having said that, 61% of finance executives or CFOs are still not using AI in their finance function. And 1/3 of them have no plan to use AI, at least in next few months. Now, it brings a very, very interesting, I would say, observation as well as a good thought for us to kind of ponder over as to, is this really going to impact finance folks the way we are thinking, or is it really far away? This is the very pertinent topic that we're going to discuss today. And the topic is hopping on the AI Express, accelerating finance efficiency and growing business. And I'm sure none of you is that surprised to have so many industry experts joining today to share their views and insights on this. Please join me in welcoming Deena Jacob. She's co-founder and CFO of Open Finance Technologies. Welcome, Deena. Next panel member is Piyush Kakkad, who's CFO of Rebel Foods. Welcome, Piyush. Third panel member is Badri Sanjeevi, who's CFO at Turtle Mint. Welcome, Badri.
Hi.
Fourth panel member is Girish Bhutani, who's General Manager of Oracle NetSuite in India. Welcome, Girish.
Hi, everyone.
And last but not the least, Damien Khoo, who joins us from Singapore. He's Vice President of Solution Consulting at Oracle NetSuite. Welcome, Damien.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Before we start the discussion, I would like to inform the audience that there will be a Q&A in the end, and I encourage the audiences to type and send in the questions. Now let's get started with this very interesting topic. Well, let me look at you, Girish, first. Is AI in finance just a hype, as I just mentioned, or is it a reality that CFOs can have leverage today?
Thanks, Pulkit. Absolutely an apt question. First of all, let me start by saying that AI is definitely not a hype. It is a reality. And if I were to actually cross on the other side, I can make this statement, given that I've been a part of this industry for over 2 decades now. It's a much needed necessity, I would say. And for every industry for that matter, not just for, a finance function. In fact, it's valid for every possible function in every organization. And yes, it is, catching eyeballs right now and also appearing to be like a hype. But it's because of the fact that it's in the news, sound bites on social media, You look at any equity or any company which has got a .ai associated with it, or even a business associated with it, you'll find that the stock is very highly appreciated, be it industry in the tech side or even in the non-tech side. And of course, Wall Street is favorite new trend. But let me tell you that AI has been there around since 1950. And I think all of us, would remember that before the internet boom actually came in, it was consumed by, the defense and the armed forces. And just as how you and me have been consuming it, but I think in a very different shape and form, it's getting more prominence right now. And hence, Gen AI is grabbing all the headlines right now. Whether we like it or not, AI has become an integrated part of our lives. And you look at it from all aspects, from the most complicated like advanced robotics or predictive algorithms to an absolute use, which is a self-driving car. So AI is definitely revolutionizing and transforming the way we interact with the world. So gaining steadily the prominence and much needed, like I said. Finance will never be an exception. It will be the front runner for this as well.
Sure. Thanks, Girish. Dina, what do you think? Quick summary of your thought on AI, if it is a hype or a reality.
Completely agreeing with Girish here. I think AI is here to stay. It has been there all the time in the background, and it has come to the forefront, and we will see it going forward, evolving in a much different manner. And I can see every aspect that we are talking about. We have been, starting with the data and the data dumps in different places, all the way to the data lake, and now coming to how is the efficient use of data, because we as finance professionals historically have been grappling with this biggest issue of how do we interpret. We always deal with data, numbers, and how to interpret and how to take decisions based on that. And today, think of it as a most effective tool which you can interact very effectively with the availability of the key aspect which has to form the foundation for making your decisions. And that's where AI is playing a huge role. And the way, including as the generative AI is coming as well, we have a much easier way in which we can interact and consume the output of or the effectiveness of AI. So AI is here to stay, and I think finance is going to be one of the functions which has always been in a sheath, not so much disrupted, I would say, even with the technological advancement, but AI is going to change the entire phase of it. And that's why I'm looking forward for this discussion, and the topic is very, very close to heart.
Badri, looking at you now, hype or reality?
I don't believe AI is an hype. I think if anything across CFO functions, including my own function, the adoption of AI across all my teams might take a bit longer, but I don't believe it's a hype. For example, some of the tools that for my own function uses, for example, I work in an insurance distribution company, and we are fairly data heavy like any fintech is. For example, we do about a few million policies a year. We find tools like robotic process automation extremely useful when we have to fetch data from our insurance partners' websites that is useful for our operations. We use machine learning to read the policy documents and populate our MISs. We use a lot of visualization tools, as I'm sure most of you are using, which helps us in analytics and routine analysis by FP&A teams or controlling teams or even legal teams, where it is relevant for them to do that. Ad hoc query writing we do. For example, in my team now, I think about we have 2 people who are full-time coders who kind of write simple Python or R scripts to get some specific data queried that meets my own internal requirements or auditors' requirements or regulators' requirements and so on and so forth. We are a highly regulated entity. And I think, did we adopt these technologies in the initial years when RPAs were launched or machine learning was launched? Machine learning probably is a 20-year-old discipline, to be honest. We might have adopted it in the last 5 years, maybe. At best, I think these are all lags. If generative AI is as new as a year and a half, maybe my own function might adopt it maybe in the coming year. I use it for some fringe use cases, but maybe not for some of the core functions now. But I expect that as more of my team gets more training and more awareness of how to use these, including for myself, we might find that generative AI somehow makes all these tools come together better, assimilate, help in understanding and making use of the existing tools better, and making us a more effective CFO function in the company. So I don't believe it's a hype. If anything, I feel there's only a lag in using it to the full potential that it is available for. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Maybe Badri, I'll extend the question for you. And could you please tell me any, use cases for which AI is already being used to automate some tasks? Maybe if you can give very short and an apt example.
Okay. I use it in very limited manner, let me admit that, but I do use it in one way very well. I do some competition tracking of metrics. There are two kinds of competition and industry data tracking that I need to do. One is whether it is general insurance business or protection businesses. I do need to understand what the growth of some of the underlying products in the market are. And our advantage is that our industry has extensive regulatory reporting where every insurer needs to officially publish what their volumes are, premiums are, and so on. I do use it to quickly upload those documents, summarize it, and AI helps me in simply publishing some quick results. For some of the listed companies in my space, and including especially their those conference call scripts get published after the quarterly announcements. I found it useful that when I don't get the time to read through the whole thing, I have used them as a quick way to come up to date on what my competitors' growth rates are or what they are. These are, in both cases, I have very small audiences for now. This might be me and my FP&A team now. My FP&A team is about 3 to 4 people, including, let us say, the CEO's office team that also works with me. But is it well used by my controlling teams, all the other aspects? It is not as much as I myself would like to. But those are the two use cases I certainly use it for. Tracking industry data, which is available very well in my industry, and for some competition analysis, both I do use almost on a monthly basis.
Thanks, Badri. Very, very informative, to know how CFOs are also using AI to assess the competition. Thanks. Piyush, I think it's amply clear that AI is not a hype. So I'm not going to ask you that. I know the answer. So let me, switch the question and ask you, what is the use case for you of AI in your finance function?
So I am a CFO at Rebel Foods, and we are a food tech where we are trying to have multiple brands operate out of single infrastructure. So you can see that technology is imbibed in what we do, and a finance function cannot be insulated. Coming to your specific question, I believe as a CFO and as a finance function, there are two big use cases that we sort of focus through the AI. First is about automation of the routine tasks. See, the data size is increasing, whether it be aggregator revenue related reconciliation or a bank reconciliation. AI helps us to do those tasks at a faster pace and more accuracy also increases. So that is the first thing where we focus on automation of the routine tasks to the extent possible. The second part is around the risk management. Internal audits play a very, very important role in assessing the risk that is there. But if it's a distributed network, like in our case, where we have 350 kitchens across India, it's very difficult for an internal audit small team to be able to identify the risk. So here again, the data analytics plays a very, very important role to be able to identify any frauds or abnormal trends by exception. So to summarize, two areas where we have started to use AI extensively. One is automation of routine tasks, and second is identifying the exceptions from a risk management perspective.
Got it. Thanks. Very, very informative and useful. Damien, looking at you now, your colleague has already spoken, confirmed, that AI is not a hype. Now, let me also ask the same question, especially being on the other side of the table as cloud-based enterprise software solution provider. What do you think is the most useful use case for the CFOs who are tuned in right now? And I see almost 100 of them are listening and seeing us.
Yeah, sure thing, Pulkit. And definitely agree that AI is here to stay. It's getting very exciting. In fact, some would say even scarier, right? If you look at the old days when we watched the film Terminator, and we used to joke about it, and some say maybe it's coming true, the whole Skynet. But coming back to reality, right? You did a question around what's a very common use case. So when we speak to CFOs and financial controllers, they have one of their major tasks is to close the books, get the books right. At the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. To close the books, you need to reconcile all your transactions and journal entries. And you need to look at discrepancies. Now, that can take a pretty long process. So what we're doing is trying to reduce that discrepancy matching. And then what we manage by exception. We look at the exceptions, take out all the discrepancies, and then make the whole reconciliation process much faster so that we can close the books faster. So from that angle, I think that's one of the most useful one that we're going to see moving forward.
Thank you so much. Extremely helpful as well. And I'm sure those who are tuned in are finding these distilled insights. And, I'm on purpose trying to get, the really daily life use cases from the esteemed panelists so that, the audiences really find it useful to apply them also in their finance functions. Well, I take a pause for a few seconds as I think it would be a right time right now to also hear what audiences are thinking about the discussion so far and what do they think about AI. And for that, I now request the Economic Times CFO backend team to put up the first poll, the first audience poll. All right. Thank you so much, ETCFO backend team. So the question to all the participants online is, which of the following AI use cases do you believe could have the most impact on your finance department? You have option to choose more than one items given below. The first one is automating financial close and reporting, which Damien just spoke of. Enhancing forecasting, budgeting with predictive analysis. To some extent, Badri had touched this. Detecting fraud and financial anomalies. Incidentally, Kedar had spoken about it. Piyush had spoken about it. And streamlining expense management is the other option, and also improving customer support through AI-driven insights, which again, other panelists like Girish and Dina had touched upon briefly. So what's your view? I give you 5 more seconds before we close the poll, and we will see the results. I repeat the question, which of the following AI use cases do you believe could have the most impact on your finance department? Okay, let's close the poll and see the results. Well, I can see that most of our panel members have influenced the results. So the highest vote goes to enhancing forecasting and budgeting, with a very close tie, with detecting fraud and financial anomalies, as well as automating financial close and reporting. While the other two, I would say not so low score, but at least rated the lowest among the 5 are streamlining expense management and improving customer support through AI-driven insights. So yeah, I think a good food for thought for our panel members. Thanks a lot. We can take the poll off now, and let's switch gear to the next question. And I'm looking at you, Dina. How do you currently address, we have just seen, would like to get your insights on FP&A and forecasting in your organization, as well as how do you convert data into insights through visualization? Could you please share your thoughts?
But this is where I would love to bring in one is as a function what we do, and we also use the tools that we have in terms of predictive, and we are in the business of making businesses life easier and cash flow analytics and insights to interestingly what everyone is seeing it as the biggest use case for AI is one of the key areas where we have used in the product itself, and that's a product we are also the base of the product we use for the analytics, forecasting and insights. And this is where I believe the biggest, because it's a starting point of everything else leads into the cash flow insights or the decision making part of it. While that's the culmination, everything else that we spoke about, whether it is right from a bank reconciliation, beautifully put in. That's one of the biggest problematic cases that we have in terms of we have suspense accounts, we don't know where the, who paid us, to whom we have to pay, all of that put together, and there is no connector between the two. Think of it as based on the patterns, based on what has happened earlier, looking at the data, whether it's by exception or by the conformity of the pattern, you will be in a position to do it automatically. And it all starts from there to the point where you see the cash flow insights, to the point where you see the historical trends, and you can predict very effectively, because the way in which methods that we use, tools that we use in terms of designing and predicting has got the limitations of how much data you can consume from the past and then do it for future. And this is where AI, including the power of generative AI, we have also seen, think of it as a right from any of the data that you scan upon, whether it is your financial reporting tool or your bank statement. Think of it where you can just upload to a tool. You can just query stating, asking for, give me all the transactions in the last 1 month, which has been XYZ, and just comes in a format which is like, charts and figures. Imagine the way in which you can just query, you see the data in a split second, and you can just take decisions based on that. You can query anything. You don't have to do number crunching. You don't have to do pivot tables. So this is where I mentioned, while it existed all the while, the tools that are available to scan everything and give it to you, how it is being rendered to you, the phase has changed completely, and even the effectiveness of the models. And there are like, done models for most of the things we would have been taking ages to give a requisition, get the tech or the tech developed, or the tools to be made, or tools to be found, and then figuring it out. Now it's being like democratized to a great extent. Yes, we do have the concerns on the safety, security, the privacy, all that keeping in mind. There are ways in which we can still take care of that aspect as well. So what I'm mentioning is that the biggest use case I have seen is ultimate part is the cash flow analytics and FP&A, wherein we are using the tool. That being said, it has to be, for that to be perfect, you have to have various other elements which come together, which is right from. So interestingly, in our organization as well, we had done a 36-hour hackathon based on Gen AI use cases in finance, and we got 10 unique use cases just in 36 hours, MVP, developable prototypes done, including risk analysis, and the other aspects where we are again a fintech with a licensed regulated entity, also doing the being in the thing of KYC, AML. The risk aspect and the use of AI there again, especially from the transaction monitoring, risk monitoring. So these are the areas where it is not only for finance, but this is the other aspect is also as critical for a CFO function, whether it's compliance, whether it is risk, whether it is, the other financial impact on the company. So it is a much wider part that we see, and even from
Sure.
the way in which it is being rendered.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Quite helpful. I think one good takeaway for everybody here could be that AI can also be used as an assistant to the CFO or the finance executives. So yeah, that's a very good takeaway. Thanks a lot once again. Piyush, could you please share, I think you had spoken briefly about already how it can be used for fraud detections and identifying exceptions. Could you please tell me some use cases or the problem statements in FP&A as well as data visualization?
Sure, Pulkit. So I think as far as the forecasting is concerned, I mean, historically, we are used to doing forecasting more at a company level, and that too in Excel. Now, the challenge is that the trends across the region or a brand, or in our case, a kitchen, are not similar. And hence, trying to simplify the forecasting at an overall level, we might miss on the trend. And then it impacts on the delivery because there is a lot of deviation from what you forecast. So this is a historical challenge. Now, how do we solve it? Is that our forecasting needs to be far more granular, which means that we should be able to forecast at a region level, at a brand level, at a product level, at a channel level. This is not possible if we just use it in Excel. And as a result of which, we are internally working with our technology team to create something that we are calling it as a data lake, which means that we are able to create a repository of data by way of sourcing this data from multiple sources. And then this data lake becomes a repository. On top of it, we are able to then actually have the previous trends and build the forecasting also. So to summarize, world is becoming very complex. Trying to simplify and build a forecasting at an overall level would not lead us to a higher accuracy of the results. And hence, leveraging AI through some of the means like we are trying to attempt by building a data lake could help us build a granular level of forecasting without the finance team having to sort of, work around 15 hours a day during the forecasting, including weekends. Coming to your second question, which was more on how do we use the data analysis and visualization? We at Rebel, the technology team, has built a data analysis and visualization tool. It helps us to decode the exact reason for change in trends because the dashboards are available real time. And as a result of which, by looking at the dashboard and double clicking, we are able to identify what are the areas as a result of which there is a deviation and which area needs an improvement. So to summarize, big data synthesis properly through a data analysis and a visualization tool helps us build the granular trends and assumptions, which increases the effectiveness from an analysis and the forecasting accuracy perspective.
Got it. Thank you. Very helpful, Piyush. Badri, if you can share your views on FP&A and data visualization and provide a very brief summary of how do you think you are addressing those challenges?
So, thank you, Pulkit. Very good comments from what Piyush and Dina just said. I'll try to build on it specific to the insurance sector. I think in insurance sector, like it is possibly for both open financial technologies and Rebel, we are fairly data heavy, and forecasting process for us has got some level of complexity because we work with all the 50 insurers in the marketplace, whether it is general insurance, health insurance, and life insurance. And we sell or enable selling of products across whether it is two-wheelers, motor cars, commercial vehicles, or health indemnity products or life investment products. And so at some level, and each of those products, if you can then visualize, has got a tremendous level of complexity in even as simple as calculating revenues on it. Just for example, suppose you want a motor car or a two-wheeler insured, it depends upon your make, your model. It depends on which geography RTO you're registered in. It also depends on which insurer you would like to take the policy and whether you're taking a third-party policy or a comprehensive policy. And our revenue relationship with our principals or insurance company is extremely complex. Just for example, a revenue computation takes about 5,000 revenue rules to actually take about 500,000 policies we sell a month to apply the right rule on the right policy and then come out with the revenues. So we have tremendous complication and sometimes simply getting to estimating what is today's revenue or this fortnight's revenue or this month's revenue. And the reconciliation process with insurers also is extremely complicated. Their statements will not match with our statements. Number of policies may not match, or the computation of incomes may not match. So we have particular difficulties of our own business model where we want to work with all the participants, but also insurance industry related complexities of how do you actually automate and forecast on this basis. To be honest, without some of the tools that our teams have built in since inception, honestly, we would have been ineffective or inoperative is what I can say. So the use of technology for some of the core functions like revenue calculations, premium forecasting, revenue forecasting, and all is fairly useful. So 2-3 layers in which we use, let me try to be as specific as possible. I mentioned down earlier. So for example, we do need to get the correct policy copies into our books of account. Otherwise, we are not able to read, for example, what kind of a policy and what the motor vehicle type is. Hence, RPAs sometimes help us in accessing the insurer's portals, fetching the policy copies and uploading it within our MIS system. So that is point one. Point number two, we have automation system that then ensures that the application of the right fraud controls on those policies happen. Because many times we find that, unfortunately, in the industry, if there is mis-selling happening on a policy, we do need to flag off those risks of fraud back to the insurer saying, guys, our sellers network has sourced policies. We don't like some of the sourcing data that has come. And we need to upfront report it so that, neither so that those policies can be corrected, cancelled, or the customer corrects the data or additional premium gets paid. So the source data needs cleaning, and for which we do need a bunch of fraud algorithms. Again, they need to be highly automated. Once that has been done, then comes revenue analysis, forecasting, and so on and so forth. So even before the raw data gets used for us, we have tremendous amount of technology that goes in. Now when it comes to the FP&A team and working on it, we of course use Tableau and similar visualization data to kind of help us in the forecasting. The second area where I use a lot of scripts and machine learning today is by saying, okay, our distribution has got so many independent financial advisors selling financial products for us. We have about 500,000 of them selling insurance for us on the ground, spread over about 150 branches. So we do need to then look at forecasting by branch, by type of insurance, and sometimes by branch and by insurance partner whose policies get sold. And so there's a lot of granularity in forecasting, as I think Dina was saying earlier about need for granularity to get some of the data right. And so a combination of being regulated industry, combination of being a bit of a marketplace operator where we work with insurers on one side and sellers on the other side, creates a particular level of data intensity for us. I'll speak more on the next question maybe, but to be honest, I do not know whether I would call this as AI technologies, but we certainly use extensive RPAs, machine learnings, algorithms, lots of Python scripts, and so on and so forth, to actually sometimes get a day-to-day job of simply even publishing a monthly P&L done. Otherwise it just become a bit complicated. I'll pause here.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Padvi. Very, very useful takeaways. Let me switch to another question. And, while we understand it's important and AI is here to stay, looking at you, Girish, what do you think are the two very important prerequisites before we can, to basically get the best out of AI? I'm sure you're implementing, talking to so many customers on a day-to-day basis. What are two things that you think sometimes CFO tends to overlook?
So, Pulkit, what I believe is that there cannot be a saying more apt than the one which says that garbage in is garbage out. And you need to understand that whatever that you're trying to get your AI to provide you with, and I'm talking about the end outcome, okay? The first and the foremost aspect of that is data. See, we are all residing on the data, which is, going to give you the insights. So getting the data right, I think it's the most important prerequisite. Now, having said that, that itself is a lot, within that one statement. So when we say data right, we talk about data quality, we talk about, having one single version of truth. And to add to it, you get on the wrong side of data, you will have all the kinds of wrong decisions that you'll get. And let me tell you that, be it in any cycle of your growth, this will only get worse with time. So first, get the data right, important. But second, most important, start early. And it's never too late to start. Let me put it that way also. So if you may have not started early, fair enough, no problem, but start. Because when you will start experiencing growth, the explosion of data will happen. And at that point in time, your incorrect, inaccurate data will also multiply. So look at it from a problem perspective then to handle. So incorrect, inaccurate data, and then you will be burdened with this soil data, which you will carry with you all throughout, which will lead to incorrect decisioning. Like I said, we first need to look at what is your end outcome that you're trying to drive. And we've heard all the use cases that, all my fellow panelists have spoken about. Look at it from a finance perspective. AI can touch base across the board. Like I said, you may want to start with the planning and budgeting, which you spoke about, till the end, which is like inventory management, expense management, so on and so forth. And just imagine the amount of incorrect data the problem that it's going to create for you. Last
Sure,
but not the least, sorry.
Yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Last
Go
but
ahead.
not the least, I would say consolidate your data. When I said unified version of truth, I've seen this happen in the past in several organizations. You have a sales data, you have a production data, you have finance, you have marketing, your order fulfillment, your HR, everything. Please try to bring it into a unified platform. If you really, really want to gain insight on your own data, because once that is completed, only then is when you will start applying AI. So remember, the power of AI is about how well you can train the model to guide you to take data-driven decisioning. So if that is to be done, you first get the data right, unify the data on a one single platform, one unified data model, and then you'll start taking benefits. And you know, when the discussions are going on, I was looking at one of the questions. Somebody was actually asking, saying that, will this make people, redundant? The reality is that you will use your mind for doing actual decisioning rather than on menial data, collation or collecting of data. So use these for your benefit in that form. And if you're already using an ERP engine, that's your best place to start with, because you have a great advantage, with centralized up-to-date data. And just imagine, with a click, every piece of your function of your business will keep getting updated, and you can generate the, reports for yourself for taking decisions on demand. So, yeah, these are the, I would say, prerequisites to driving AI in your organization.
Very pertinent, Girish. I cannot agree more. And in fact, I want to pick up, from what you just said, that, garbage in, garbage out. Basically, AI is a tool, and the choice is ours as to how, we deploy it. And from my perspective, and, this question, I think, comes in many other forums, that will AI replace human intelligence? I also agree there with you that I think in general, it will increase the productivity, efficiency, and accelerate work. I think leaving room for everybody to kind of benefit from it. So I think that's the way I see it too. Thanks for very valuable insight. Piyush, very quickly, one prerequisite from you before AI gets implemented.
So I think Girish touched upon the technical reason why AI is super critical. I want to touch upon the softer part. Culturally, how do we sort of make this to our team that why AI is important? To me, that is a prerequisite. Now, first of all, if finance have X work stream like a FP&A or a internal audit or a controllership or a taxation, AI is not another work stream. AI is actually a solve for some of the finance team's key problems, right? Which are around, bulky data management, trying to do things faster, reduce the manual workload. So I think this is the first and super critical thing, that AI is actually, need for AI is real, and it's not a separate work stream. The question is, how do we sort of cascade this more at a philosophy level within the organization? So what we do at Rebel Finance is, we have an annual finance strategy meet. And we don't start with to say that we are going to implement AI. We start with, let's list down what are the problems that a finance function faces today. And then when we list down, we also try to discuss what are the potential solves. There will always be a constraint around the number of people that you have, around the cost, and also when you start doing this discussion, you start to transition the thought to say that, look, automation is the need. AI plays a very, very critical role. So I think it starts from identifying the need, which is far more real for a finance professional rather than it being a technical jargon and a course that is required to be done. So that's the starting point. Second is, I think defining that what needs to be picked up as top 3 areas for a year becomes super critical. And then you sort of work with the team on the solutioning aspect. There are a lot of tools available. There are a lot of external support available. It's good and bad both. Good because you don't need to learn. Bad because you have to choose from multiple options. So I think then, you sort of spend time, invest in terms of, identifying these tools, do certain pilots. And then once the success are there, you sort of over celebrate, right? To say that, look, what we thought about 6 months back, here is a solution which eases our life. And to what Girish said, it actually frees up our bandwidth and we can focus more on decision making. So I think this whole journey about identifying that AI is for us to solve the critical problem, try to then pick up the critical use case, solve it together with the finance team. I think that if we do it for a repeated period of maybe couple of years, it just becomes the DNA of the organization. And then it's easier to take this agenda forward. And I'm sure then, people learn about it. They have much more awareness around the technical tools available and all, they can keep on implementing it. So to my mind, I think culturally aligning that why AI is required is super critical prerequisite.
Got it. Thanks a lot. I think we are already 40 minutes past 3 o'clock. A lot of more interesting questions to come. And I would like to kind of announce here that we may extend our discussion by another 7 to 10 minutes. I hope audience will still stay connected with us. The discussion is really, really getting interesting. And I want to get the best out of the wisdom of the panelists that I have been able to catch hold of. However, I would also request the panel members for the remaining questions, if we can just try to summarize in short and try to bring the best answers, would be helping me cover also the remaining questions. With that, let me switch now to you, Damien. We already spoke about you're working with Oracle NetSuite. Can you give me one example of how modern ERP that are cloud-based are enabling business to implement and adopt AI? And do you have some solutions which kind of package AI as part of your product?
Yeah, sure thing. And taking on two very important principles. Girish talked about data, unified data, and Piyush talked about cultural. AI is not a separate stream, right? So taking those principles in place, the way Oracle NetSuite and cloud-based, using the cloud-based technology we have, we look at AI as solving a business problem. We're not doing AI for the sake of doing AI, right? So if I'm a finance person doing my daily job, we look at how to embed AI as part of the process. If I'm balancing my book, if I'm solving my AP and AR problem, the problem is there. It's just that we are using different tools, a mix of different logic, and then a mix of AI. So AI is embedded in all processes within the ERP, whether it's a finance stream, whether is it a supply planner doing the supply chain planning, whether is it a transportation guy doing his optimization of his routes. So that's all embedded within there. And you mentioned cloud, Pulkit, it's very important because many people underestimate the type of power that we need to run AI. If you look at Google, if you Google, our founder, Larry Ellison, literally had to beg the NVIDIA CEO, Mr. Jensen, to give us more GPUs to run our AI across the entire globe. But only with cloud technology, we can run that and we can share the power across the globe. So, this is how we are running our AI. And even you're talking about FP&A processes, we start with budgeting and cash flow forecasting. All these AI are all embedded, machine learning and predictive analytics. They're all part of that process as well, right? So it's seamless for us.
It's quite helpful. Dina, could you please share one example of the cloud-based platform that you are using, which has enabled AI as a package for you?
I think it will come back to our own product, which we used, by the way. But of course, it is loaded with a lot of other, AI built on different tools, on different language models. On top of that, I'll also explain how we solve for this. So we are a platform which provides a connected finance as a concept, and this runs on, when you talk about connected finance, historically our problem, I think all of us touched upon the same aspect, that data resides in different tools, different places, whether it is accounting system, whether it's banking system, whether it's payment system, or whether it is a business system where real transactions in the orders in millions are happening right now, to what Piyush has been mentioning about the complexity, how life is becoming more and more complex in different regulated entities, what Badri also touched upon. And we have the same thing, especially in terms of who transacts and for what purpose and what their background and what they have been doing with the data. So these are some of the areas wherein this has become, the AI is playing a crucial role, which otherwise we were finding it difficult on a real-time basis to assess and put it into action. And that's where, again, as a tool, when we connect, and I mean, touched upon that aspect, especially ERPs, which provides a whole lot of areas where from the or data can reside in the cloud, pull from different systems. Think of a situation wherein when we talk about cash flow analytics and even about FP&A, if we don't know the working capital cycle, that is related to treasury as well, and which is related to your cash flow and the predictions and everything. So just imagine a situation wherein if you have to really do the granular, Piyush touched upon the granular part of it also, granular analysis and forecasting, you really need to know what are your regular patterns of the payment of your receivables, what are your each of your kind of receivables debtors patterns are in terms of when they pay, and what are the kind of acceptance and what are the kind of timelines on each of your creditors. Doing that line by line becomes extremely difficult or a time consuming task otherwise. And imagine in our kind of case, when we talk about the cash flow insights and the predictive analytics, it all takes all of these into consideration. And this is not just for the predictive purpose, but again, think of it as the treasury planning. You would exactly know next week at this point in time what kind of cash flow you'll be sitting on and what kind of reminders to send. And all of these are possible only with that prediction and looking at the previous data. And then that gets connected back into your, lending part of it. Like how much to trigger, from way to trigger and way to go for. And even for the lender, this data is helping in terms of, the entire lake is helping in terms of how to make the assessment. So this is all becoming an interconnected aspect. And that's exactly where, when we connect different systems, and which is what we do as an interface. And then there are multiple models which come attached to that, and which is what we overlay our finance data on top of, connect different systems, whether it's ERP, whether it's banking, all of that, and then use the predictive models to understand what we need and what decision we need to take. Can't agree more with Girish, what he mentioned as well. Unless the first and most important aspect is to understand what do we want to decide on and what do we want the end goal to be. AI is a means to an end and not an end in itself. And that's where it is very critical in finance function also that way.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Dina. I would take a pause again and would like to get a sense of what our audience think about AI and what are the use cases that they think are relevant for them. So may I request now our Economic Times CFO backend team to put up the second poll question, please. All right, it's here. What's the biggest challenge to implement AI in your finance operations? You can choose more than one option. First one, data quality, which again, Girish had spoken about. Skill gaps within the finance team. I'm gonna cover that question next. Third, integration with existing system. Again, Piyush had spoken about the data lake, further emphasized by Girish. Unclear ROI or business case. Yes, that's another very important challenge. And the last but not the least is concerns about data privacy and security, which also was raised by Dina and Daniel. You get 2 more seconds before we close the poll. I repeat the question, what do you see as the biggest challenge to implement AI in your finance function? All right, let's see the results. Almost a tie between, I would say, 3 top results. So first one is data quality, followed by skill gap, which is at 50%, and integration with existing system, which is 53. And the last 2 are least important, but still relevant, are unclear ROI, as well as data privacy and security. Thank you so much, audience, for your contribution on this. Let me, taking a clue from the audience poll, ask the next question to you, Badri. What foundational step CFOs should take to prepare their organization for successful AI adoption? We have spoken about the data quality already. Also, looking at, the data lake and consolidating the information. I would like to get one additional, I would say, important information here, before we, go ahead with AI.
No, absolutely. I'll try and build on what's been spoken. I think in terms of trying to get AI adopted in across our organizations, I will looking at filling the talent gap across the teams. Today, for example, if in many organizations the CFO function relies on the CIO or CTO functions to execute AI projects for them, then we invariably come across internal difficulties in giving the projects the right set of prioritization, resource allocation, getting it done on time. One way to kind of try and that always internal conflicts arise or delays happen. One way of trying to solve that is within the CFO functions, how can you set up some capabilities of people who can begin us in the journey towards getting AI done, and it works on the CFO's agenda and not just a broader organization-wide agenda that, let us say, a CTO kind of straddles from. So in my own team today, I think I have a team of about 50 people covering finance, legal, and so on. Of which today I've got about 3 to 4 people who are fundamentally come from data science background. They help with simple Python scripts and R scripts and helping train people on visualization things and so on and so forth. But the fact that they sit amidst my controllers, my tax people, my FP&A people, my reporting people, or even the juniors who do expense processing, it kind of creates lots of conversations within the team. Hey, this thing I'm doing is taking time. Oh, every month I get 3,000 different expense claims from my field people. Can you help me in doing a quality check on that quickly? I love those small conversations that happen. They may become solutions today or solutions down the road, but kind of seeding the talent within the team, making them sit in the midst, I think has helped my own team and culture a little bit kind of get aware and create enthusiasm for solving these things. The second thing I've tried to do as far as possible is, being a regulated company again and data heavy company, my company works closely, my team works closely with, let us say, the chief compliance officer of the company, or with the CTO, or with the operations officer of the company who handles all the back end, all the ops people, and so on and so forth. And many times, any of the reporting that we need to the regulator requires MIS to be cleaned by the ops people, reviewed by the compliance team, and then reporting done by the finance team. If I can create small cross-functional projects where we introduce a new way of doing something that's already been done for the last few years, then I find that many people's work suddenly gets realigned. Work moves a lot more to the front end than the back end picking up the slack for what has not been done in the front end. If some of those reorganizations can also be achieved as a result of some small cross-functional projects being done differently as compared to how they were being done before, then people then realize, hey, if this work has gotten easy, why can't I try this for some other work? I think some of those 2, 3 things have kind of helped in creating almost an innate desire on people to say that, can we try to ease out our day-to-day work and change from what we have been doing? I'll pause here. Hope that was helpful. But those are the 2 specific things that we have tried at Turtlemint.
Sure. Thanks, Badri. Piyush, let me, you have already kind of also, explained very nicely about the software aspect as well. Let me switch gear and ask you about the skill gap. How are you addressing the gap in skills, in the team that you are managing, so that they're well equipped to utilize the AI tools?
Sure. So, see, I think from an automation perspective, there are 2 parts. One is about the core finance automation, which is more about implementing the ERP or a compliance management tool, right? Where we need to be aware on the specific requirement and work with the technology team or a third-party partner to be able to implement this. Second is there are automation across the business where you need to take care from an audit requirement of ITGC and ITAC. So what is happening is that automation is no longer under a purview of CTO and finance has to be a recipient. Actually, now technology is becoming an integral part in business where finance also has to work very, very closely with the technology function. To do that, there are certain processes that we have tried to implement, which means that wherever any new development is being done, at the time of process note, there is a sign off from finance which is being done to take care of taxation requirement or a ITGC, ITSC requirement. So one is these kind of things creates a culture whereby people start to talk to the technology function and the business functions on this. Second thing is, as Badri rightly mentioned, we also have a couple of folks who are dedicatedly working on automation as a charter. So their job is actually to collate the requirement across the function and try to hold it as a charter and then socialize within the technology team or outside try to get to the solutions and then present it to the team. So to summarize, I think automation or AI is a very, very integral part where finance has to be a co-partner rather than being just a beneficiary of that. And second is try to create certain processes whereby some of the things like sign off and all works from managing the audit requirement well, preparing us in advance. And second is also create our awareness about the automation.
Sure. Thank you so much. Dina, can you share in brief how are you bridging the skill gap?
I think, as Piyush mentioned, I would say that finance as a co-partner or in the AI terms, a co-pilot is something which is extremely required to make this as a more than the skill gap. It is not one function's job alone, but this is going to be a cultural change itself. And and the way we see AI today might not be the way in which we are going to use it completely, say 6 months down the line. But at the same time, if we don't build that whole muscle and thought process in terms of let's start thinking through how best we can utilize this internally, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. I don't think the upskilling can be done right away. It is more about introducing to the concept and also about how familiar or are they scared of it or are they getting familiarized with the fact that, yes, this is something which can help you in day-to-day activities, take off a lot of cognitive load from you and elevate you to the position wherein you can be more effective in delivering what you are supposed to deliver and reaching the end goal faster. So that's the cultural change we are focusing on. And to some extent, as I earlier also touched upon the hackathon we mentioned, there it was a cross-functional. There was not a finance or a tech or a product. We had different people coming together, picking themes and the rigor with which it was done. And the best part is the entire organization got to see how it functions. Somebody had done a model on a, using a Copilot and uploading the bank statement, how it comes out, and then somebody talking about, how it can be used in lending. So different themes and use cases. What I mean to say is that when the entire organization sees that AI in real case scenario, which they can relate to in their real life, they are warming up to the whole idea. And that's where, that whole exercise also made the entire organization to think on a different line in terms of how can I use this rather than this being some strange topic that is being discussed everywhere, how this is real and can be applied. So that was a starting point, and we see a lot of, as we heard from others as well, the conversations which are getting built up, the thought process in terms of how we can use this in the real life, and then that leads to how the prompt should be happening, different skill set for different areas, and it is not limited to one function. And finance can lead the way because a lot of it comes down finally to reporting, MIS, and decision making. And other departments also can be enablers. You can lead, be a partner, be a co-pilot, take the organization from a 360-degree perspective, both from a cash flow efficiency and from a revenue growth.
Sure. Thank you so much. As we are coming to the end of our panel discussion, I would also like to request the panel members to start answering the questions posted by audience in the chat. If you think any question is relevant for you, you can just press the blue answer button and post it. I think that would be the best use of also your time as while you're not speaking. Meanwhile, and to make your life a little bit more tough, this time I'll start with Girish. Last time he complained that it's very difficult for him to then summarize because most of the important takeaways are taken away. So Girish, first, I would say, tell me the summary of whatever you have said today in one sentence or a couple of words.
Okay. First, automation is here to stay. Start your AI journey And I think no better team than a FinCon, because I think they're far more disciplined compared to a lot of other divisions. And also finance has got a very defined process. So please start your AI journey and make it a part of your day-to-day. But like I said, AI is just a tool to enable you for data-driven decisioning. Design your AI model such that you're feeding it with the right ingredients so as to get the right output.
One sentence or couple of words.
I think it's inevitable. I think as leaders, we need to start reading and applying more and set examples across the organization. And I've taken that as my own personal objective, as my own learning, and lead by example in using AI across the company.
Thank you. Piyush.
Embrace AI. It's a partner and enabler to finance function.
Thank you. Dina.
Thinking AI, take it seriously, and be excited about how effective you can be in future.
Thank you. Demin, you'll have to share the burden of Girish this time.
No
Be-
problem. Well, I would say let's not do AI for the sake of AI, but let it solve a real business outcome and a real business use case. That'll be my sentence.
All right. Thank you. Very smart takeaways. And let me also summarize. And meanwhile, I think you would like to take a look at the questions. And I think we'll take 3 or 4 questions. So please raise your arm if you've chosen one. And let me summarize the discussion that we had today. We had a very, very fruitful discussion. And we started by asking the panelists if it's a hype, AI is a hype, or it's a requirement. I think everybody unanimously said it's not a hype, and it's a much needed a tool which finance should also adopt, and it should not be untouched from it. The adoption of AI needs to be accelerated, and there are many use cases which panel members spoke about, analyzing the competition, checking the growth rate of the business and what competition is doing, also being used for automating the routine tasks, as well as identifying the exceptions, as well as potential fraud or risks too. Some panel members also spoke of closing the books right, as well as using it for FP&A, as well as using it for closing the books effectively. Then we spoke of what could be the further drill down of use of AI. Dina has spoken about predictive analysis is extremely helpful, as there are a lot of variables in there, and there is a natural limitations within a human being to crack so much of data. That's where AI can help. She also spoke of AI being useful as as an assistant to the CFO or the finance function too. Panel members also recommended to have crowdsourcing of ideas from within your own teams. Piyush had specifically talked about the data lake, creating a repository of data coming in from different sources, which Girish further re-emphasized in a rephrase, statement of consolidating the information. There were also this emphasis on granularity of the data, which AI can help us easily crack and empower the finance function with important and different cuts of the information. There were also comments from other leaders like Damian and Dina on the product configuration, which Badri also kind of re-emphasized that without compromising on customer needs, AI can indeed help us configure the complex products as well as not losing the control. Also, it was re-emphasized on the real-time nature of AI, as well as use of Tableau as a tool to visualize the huge volume of data. On prerequisite, Girish had said to focus on quality and single source of truth, as well as start early. It's never too late. He also re-emphasized the need to start early. If you do it in a growth phase, the data explosion can actually result into inaccurate use of AI. Afterwards, Piyush re-emphasized on prerequisites of the software aspect, which was further supported by Badri and other panel members as to how to cascade the communication and information about why AI and take everybody together in this journey. On the tools, Damian and Dina had spoken about, a lot of cloud-based software and enterprise systems available, which come with embedded AI functionality. Afterwards, on the skill side, many panel members had spoken about, partnering with the CIO or the IT team and working together, getting proactively involved from the finance side, as well as creating strong processes on IT, GC, as well as, other finance processes that we have and create enough awareness. I think that's how we had a very informative discussion today. And any panel member has chosen the question that they would like to answer. Otherwise, I would like to choose randomly. Yes, please, Damien. Please go ahead. I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Sure thing. So there was a question by Sundar around using AI for actionable insights rather than just automation. And the answer is definitely, right? In the past, when you log into a dashboard, it's kind of fixed. But with generative AI, you can just key in a word. For example, how was my sales, my top in this certain region in India? Automatically, it will propose 10 to 20 different visualizations on the fly, and you would choose that. Not only that, it will then analyze that dashboard and the data within that, and then propose in proper English or in the language chosen, some proposed next steps. So all these are now available already.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sundar, for the question and Debian for answering. Any other panel member would like to take another question? Yes, please, Piyush.
Yeah. So Vikas Malik had a question. How can we build anomalies detection for finance auditing function? Because we can work with the internal audit firms because now these firms have also transitioned from a transaction-based audit to using tools for the anomalies detection. And I think going forward, the exception-based audit is going to be a rule. So my request would be if we can sort of work with various internal audit firms who are now having these tools. Yeah. Second was on Rohan Bhate had a question around what skills do we need as a finance professional so that we do not phase out due to AI. I think we had covered this. Rather than too much worried about the skill set, we should start with the problems faced by finance function and how AI can solve. I think once we start this as a mindset and also have a couple of members or one member dedicated to take care of the automation charter, in this journey, we'll keep learning together.
Sure. Thank you so much. Maybe one last question we can take up. Anybody would like to? Badri, I see you typing.
Yeah.
If you would like to speak
Sure.
instead.
No, there are a couple of interesting questions on, is that data privacy in using GenAI models, or are there any concerns with emerging DPDP Act and GDPR responsibilities? I'll just say that some of these use cases AI might actually excel quite well. And the DPDP Act, the Data Protection and Act in India that is proposed to come out with guidelines, may come with fairly elaborate consent mechanisms. We might actually need AI-based solutions to actually ensure that we are compliant in an easy way and in a definite waterproof way. GDPR also has got extensive consent and data protection and data deletion requirements. Again, AI tools might actually help us in staying more compliant than not. And today, AI models are not just cloud models, also private AI models. I'm not a technology person, but I have participated in discussions where should our data be allowed to be used as training data with the platforms or not? And we would not be comfortable doing it as CFOs. I think some of those questions have been raised and maybe very well answered as well. I'm not knowledgeable at that. But if we navigate those questions well, we'll have a lot more to gain than fear losing. So I remain an optimist in that way to solve some of the difficult CFO problems that we work with or deal with. So I'm optimistic about that.
Sure. Thank you once again, Badri, for answering the question. Let me now conclude the Table Talk series today. I thank you very much for the esteemed panelists, Dina, Piyush, Badri, Girish, and Damien, for sharing your discerning thoughts, insights on this very relevant topic. Also, a big thank you to wonderful participants And last but not the least, the people supporting behind the scenes, Darshini, Ankita, Akshat, and Ritik. Thank you very much and hope to see you soon in the next episode.